everybody, it's JT Sports Match, you guys, with another video. This video I'm going to be talking about players the Miami Dolphins should target and free agency. Now, the Miami Dolphins, they basically need everything. They need offensive linemen, they need a running back, they need edge rushers, they need everything. Looking for them, they have a lot of cap space. So, they need to be making it rain, $1 million contracts, and free agency. I don't know if you guys ever been to a club or not, but you know how they make it rain in a club? They need to be making it rain, $1 million contracts, and NFL free agency because they need everything. So, I think what the Miami Dolphins should start off with first, they should try to spend money on addressing their offensive line first, because regardless if whoever's going to be the quarterback next season for the Miami Dolphins, it all starts up front. NFL games, football games in general, are won up front. When you look at some of the best teams that went to the playoffs last season, most of those teams that ended up making it into the Final Four all had good offensive lines. You got to look at the 49ers, the Packers, the Chiefs, the Titans. All four of those teams had good offensive lines. And if you want to make it deep into the NFL playoffs, you got to have a good offensive line. If you even want to consider yourself a Super Bowl contender, you got to have a great offensive line. And for the Miami Dolphins, they need to improve the offensive line. I think if they're able to improve the offensive line, I think we're going to be able to see a tremendous overhaul in this team. And with the offensive line being said, I think they should target center Connor McGovern. Now, Connor McGovern, I hope I pronounced his name right, played for the Denver Broncos last year. Now, their starting center, Matt Paredes, ended up suffering an injury, so he ended up taking over for him. And he was pretty good, had a pretty good grade by Pro Football Focus. I believe he had like a 70.2 overall grade by Pro Football Focus. And if you're building an offensive line, you got to have a good starting center. When you look at some of the best offensive lines in the NFL, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, the Dallas Cowboys, what all three of those teams have in common is that all three of those teams have elite centers. The Philadelphia Eagles have Jason Kelsey, I believe that's his name. The Pittsburgh Steelers have Pouncey. So, I mean, the Dallas Cowboys, they got Travis Frederick. So, when you're building the offensive line, it's very, very important that you get a very good center, because the center is basically the quarterback of the offensive line. He lets the offensive linemen, all the other fellow offensive linemen know what their assignments are, who they need to pick up against the blitz and things like that, because sometimes the quarterbacks identify who's the mic and who's coming off the blitz and sometimes like that, and sometimes the center identifies who the mic is and who the offensive linemen need to pick up. So I think it's very important when the Miami Dolphins are building the offensive line that they started off by getting a good starting caliber center. And I think Connor McGovern is going to be good enough to do that. And one good thing about it is he's young, and I don't think he's going to demand that much money because there's not really a lot of good centers. And I think he's going to be a guy who goes under the radar. So I think they should try to throw some big money at him. The next guy on this list who they should go after is offensive tackle Jack Conklin. Now, Jack Conklin played for the Tennessee Titans. I think he's probably going to end up getting franchise tagged by Tennessee, in my opinion, depending on what happens with the guys that got hit in free agency. But if he does hit free agency, I think the Miami Dolphins should be able to max him out, give him a good deal, make him one of the highest paid offensive tackles at his position. And he's a good pass blocker, but he's one of the best run blocking offensive linemen that we have in the game right now. This guy's a mauler. He's big. He's nasty. He's super physical. He's everything that you want in today's NFL. When it comes to your offensive lineman, I like his attitude. He's personally one of my favorite, if not my favorite offensive lineman to watch in the NFL, because my favorite offensive linemen are the guys who are very nasty, get guys to the ground, get a lot of pancake blocks and things like that, and literally just impose their will on the player lining up to the opposite side of them. And that's what I like out of my offensive linemen. That's what I like out of Jack Conklin. He brings attitude. He brings tenacity. That's what he's going to bring to Blind Floors and his Miami Dolphins team. He's going to bring a guy who can be a great leader, a great veteran presence inside the locker room, and also he's young. I believe he's only 26 years old. So I mean, this guy has a lot of football ahead of him. So I think if you're the Miami Dolphins and Jack Conklin is available in free agency, you got to hop on him, because it's very hard to find elite offensive linemen in the NFL, in today's NFL. Elite offensive linemen are extremely rare. Good starting offensive linemen are hard to find. And average offensive linemen, they're everywhere. Bad offensive linemen, they're everywhere. So it's very hard to find an elite offensive lineman or elite offensive tackle in today's NFL. So when you have one available, I think you need to throw as much money as they want. And I think the Miami Dolphins should make Jack Conklin one of their biggest priorities going into free agency. The next guy that I have is Brian Bulaga. Now, Brian Bulaga is a guy who's a little bit up there in age. He's 31 years old, but I still think he has a couple of years left of football in him. And probably the Miami Dolphins will probably draft the offensive tackle and the upcoming NFL draft as well if they don't go after Brian Bulaga. But what Brian Bulaga brings is he's a guy who could be a good starter depending on what the Miami Dolphins look to do at the quarterback position if they go to or whoever they decide to draft in the NFL draft. And what you need is you need a guy who is going to be a great blindside blocker and be a great pass blocker, because in today's NFL, the Miami Dolphins threw the ball a lot last season, basically since the fact that they couldn't get the run game going, and you need a good offensive line because at the end of the day, it's still a passing league, and the Miami Dolphins need a good pass blocker when it comes to the offensive tackle, and I think that's what Brian Bulaga brings. He's one of the better pass blocking offensive tackles that we have in the NFL, and I think he'll be a good fit for the Miami Dolphins. The last offensive lineman that I think the Miami Dolphins should go after is offensive guard Joe Thuney. Now, Joe Thuney played for the New England Patriots last season. I don't think the New England Patriots are going to be able to bring him back unless they do franchise tag him. And the New England Patriots don't really use the franchise tag that often. So I think he's most likely going to end up becoming a free agent. But he was probably the best offensive lineman that the New England Patriots had last season, since the offensive line was a little bit of disarray due to the injuries that they suffered. So Joe Thuney, he's probably the second best offensive guard going into free agency. And for the Miami Dolphins, I think he'll be another good addition. I mean, he's going to demand a pretty large salary, but I think he's going to be pretty well worth it because you're getting one of the better offensive guards in the NFL. And the Miami Dolphins offensive line was not really that good last season. They're still lacking a lot of talent there. So I think the most important investment you can make, and other than investing in the quarterback and giving your quarterback wide receivers and weapons to throw to, is investing in the guys who want to be blocking up front. So I think the Miami Dolphins should spend a pretty large salary on the offensive line, spend money on Joe Thuney, because I think it's going to be a really good pickup. He's a good run blocker. He's a good pass blocker. He's just a good all-around offensive guard, and I think the Miami Dolphins should look to go after him. Now, the next person that they should go after is, we got our first skill position on this list, halfback Melvin Gordon. Now, Melvin Gordon sat out for half of the NFL season due to contract disputes and things like that, and he's slated to become a free agent. He had 612 rushing yards, 8 touchdowns, was averaging 3.8 yards per carry, and the LA Chargers really struggled to really get him involved last season. Don't really know why that was. I think it was because he sat out a couple of games, so it took him a little bit to get back into rhythm and things like that. But I have seen rumors tying and linking Melvin Gordon to the Miami Dolphins. I think the Miami Dolphins would be a pretty good fit because Melvin Gordon, man, is one of the best halfbacks in the NFL. He is a top 10 halfback. Some people will consider him top 5, depending on how you rank your halfbacks and things like that. But he is going to demand a large salary. Now, I'm not a big believer in paying halfbacks top dollars because there's only a few halfbacks that can make the offensive line better. And even then, even if you do have a great halfback but have a bad offensive line, that halfback's still not going to have a lot of production. Look at Saquon Barkley and Le'Veon Bell last season. They both were great halfbacks but had bad guys blocking in front of them. So if I'm the Miami Dolphins, I prioritize the offensive line first, then go after a guy like Melvin Gordon. But if the Miami Dolphins don't want to pay big money to Melvin Gordon, they should try to go after halfback Kareem Hunt. Now, Kareem Hunt, we still don't know what the verdict is. I read a report a couple of weeks ago. He got busted with, like, having marijuana in the car or something like that. So a lot of teams are really going to be skeptical of giving him a long-term deal. So if you're the Miami Dolphins, you should be able to sign Kareem Hunt to a 2-year deal, maybe sign to a 1-year deal. He should be fairly cheap because he's a very talented player. He can catch out the backfield. He is a great all-purpose back, but it's just the off-the-field concerns that you have with Kareem Hunt that comes with a guy like Kareem Hunt. He had 179 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, average 4.2 yards per carry with the Cleveland Browns. So, I mean, he would be a good pickup for the Miami Dolphins. He is an all-around halfback. I think he could be a cheap snack, a cheap deal. And the last player that I have is edge rusher Jadeveon Clowney. Now, I have Jadeveon Clowney in almost every single video, but I've seen legitimate interest that the Miami Dolphins and Jadeveon Clowney have into each other. I actually believe that I saw a report before the NFL season began, when the Houston Texans was shopping around Jadeveon Clowney, that it was a lot of rumors that were linking Jadeveon Clowney to the Miami Dolphins, but those the trade never went through. But I do think, since the Miami Dolphins do have the money, that Jadeveon Clowney could end up going to Miami. Now, he did say that he wanted to play for a contender, but I mean, I really trust Brian Flores. I like what this Miami Dolphins team is building, so I could see Jadeveon Clowney. It's easy to say you want to play for a contender until somebody like the Miami Dolphins throws those big dollar figures on you. So I could see Jadeveon Clowney becoming a Miami Dolphin realistically. But these are my realistic targets that I have for the Miami Dolphins that they should look to target and NFL free agency. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel for more NFL videos and content. And thanks for watching.